One of the most interesting ideas in mythology is the world tree. Some years ago, I had the chance to work in Bombay with a really interesting homeopathic doctor who was very knowledgeable about many things, including Indian mythology, which he used to weave into his teaching about medicine. And he spoke quite often of the Kalpataru tree. And the Kalpataru tree in India is the idea of a wishing tree, somewhat like in the north of England we have the idea of wishing wells. And when you get to the wishing tree and you in all sincerity make a wish, then that wish is pretty much bound to come true. And Kalpataru was where you would sit and envisage the future or the outcome that you most wanted. And this idea of a tree that will bring good fortune is found in Hinduism, it's found in Jainism, it's found in Buddhism, and it's found in different ways right across the world, and not least with the idea of the Christmas tree with the presents under it that is now everywhere in the Western world, having been brought from a German tradition by Prince Albert when he came to spend Christmas, or when he was living with Victoria, but celebrating Christmas with Victoria. And the idea of the Christmas tree then has spread right across the Western world from that. And of course, the Christmas tree in Germany relates back to the northern European tradition that is pagan, is pre-Christian, or it may have arisen alongside Christianity, but it was outside the Christian sphere of influence. And there is some discussion, quite interestingly, that the Eddas, where the world tree Yggdrasil is discussed and introduced, the idea of Odin hanging on the Yggdrasil may indeed have been added by the Christian writers who chronicled the stories. But on the other hand, it is an idea that is universal in itself. If I can just take a moment to invite you to subscribe to this channel, where we'll be posting many other videos on the themes of mythology and fairy tales and symbolism. And to, if you look at the link underneath where this is posted, you will also find a link to a free book on fairy tales, or free pamphlet on fairy tales, to look at how to analyze fairy tales, which I think you may find quite interesting. So back to Yggdrasil. This is a wonderful concept. It has its branches everywhere, and it has its roots in three great realms. One is the underworld. One is Jotunheim, which is the realm of the frost giants. And one is Asgard, which is the realm of the gods, Odin and Loki and Thor and all the other gods that you may be familiar with. And the roots and branches sustain 9 worlds in all, encompassing dwarves and elves and others. And if we ask, well, what does this tree represent? Well, it clearly represents the whole created cosmos, the whole glorious creation of divinity. And it is the objective universe, the expression of the divine idea in this system, in 9 worlds or 9 regions. And there's an aspect to the tree that is very interesting, because at its roots, at the roots relating to the frost giants, is a well. And the well is called Mimir's well because it is owned by or under the protection of the giant Mimir. And Mimir is recognized as very wise, and his wisdom has come from this well. And when Odin, the chief of the gods in Asgard, wishes to become wise, he goes to Mimir's well to drink. But in order to be able to take of the wisdom of Mimir's well, he is required to give up an eye. And so he becomes blind in one eye, or gives one eye up, that rests in Mimir as well. And we will look at what that means at the end. So this idea, this world tree, with its expressions, I think in every major religion, one way or another, the idea of a tree can be seen in the Kabbalah, for example. The Kabbalistic tree of life is very similar with, in this case, I believe, 10 regions rather than 9 regions. And the idea of the wishing well occurs in many different stories. So we find it in fairy tales as well. And there's one version of the Cinderella story, slightly different to the French version, which we're more familiar with. But one of the alternative versions, Cinderella, who is the full daughter of her father, but her stepmother is cruel to her and her stepsisters bully her. When the father, who's going off to a fair at the local town, says, what do they want him to bring them back by way of presents? The 2 older daughters answer in terms of finery and jewellery and expensive things, and the youngest daughter, Cinderella, says just a twig from a branch that first brushes against him. And that twig is from the hazel tree. So he duly brings back a twig of hazel, and she plants it, and it grows into a hazel tree, and it becomes a wishing tree. And if we think about the hazel, it also has interesting symbology. It's considered a sacred tree, and the switch of hazel, or a Y-forked piece of hazel, branching piece of hazel, is used in dowsing. So people who are good dowsers looking for water or other things will use hazelwood for that. And a wand, if we believe in magicians, a wand would be often made from the hazel tree. So it has long associations with the sacred and also with the magical, or the higher magic of the mysteries. And Cinderella, with her hazel tree, unable to go to the ball, being held up, carrying out impossible tasks set by her stepmother, has nothing to wear, so of course she can't go. And she goes to the hazel tree that then showers on her gold and silver, so that she has a gold and silver dress that enables her to go to the ball. And if we return to the myth of Odin, and we look at Yggdrasil, we find that he hangs on the tree Yggdrasil. And indeed, the word Yggdrasil in the ancient Norse language means Odin's horse. It also means the gallows. So with Yggdrasil, we have the idea of the god hanging on the tree. And if we go back to some of the very earliest myths in relationship to trees, we find that Osiris, chopped up by his brother Set, put into a casket, cast out into sea, and he ends up in the trunk, hidden in the trunk of a tree that becomes a pillar in a palace, I believe in Lebanon, anyway, in a coastal region. And when Isis goes searching for him, she finally arrives at this palace and realizes that Osiris is there, and eventually releases him from the tree in which he is, in essence, hanging. And that leads to other remarkable symbols, not least the backbone of Osiris, the Jed pillar that is found in almost every ancient temple in Egypt as a symbol. So the world tree, which can be seen as representing the whole of the cosmos, is a wonderful symbol full of the most remarkable things. And to just finish with a point about Yggdrasil, in its branches runs the squirrel Ratatosk, and Ratatosk goes between the eagle in its highest branches, who perhaps represents the highest aspects of spiritual wisdom, and the dragon at its lowest roots, who's gnawing away always at those roots, seeking to destroy the tree, and carries messages, truths and untruths between those two regions. And we can see Ratatosk as representative of human thought.